Hello, Mole Class, and welcome to day 7 of the Creakers. Okay, we have some special guests here to say hello to you today. So please welcome the fantastic LSAs.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys. Cool. You ready to go? Let's start. With that, Lucy saw movement in the shadows. Her tummy was full of fluttery wobbles. Her mouth dropped open in shock. Goosebumps pimpled down both arms, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood up as the 4 creakers crept out of the blackness, and she caught sight of them for the very first time. Their skin was as black as treacle and shimmered with a sticky wetness like the repulsive flesh of a slug. They had veiny ears that looked like rotten cabbage leaves and long pointy claws which seemed to click across the floor like spiders' legs as they crept. Each of them dragged a rotten tail behind them, which looked like a muddy brown banana skin. Ugh. One by one, they stood up, revealing their full rottenness. Their heads were just high enough to poke over the side of Lucy's bed. Lucy squinted in the dimness. From her hiding spot inside the cupboard, she could see them properly. One of them was freckled with boils and pus-filled spots along its gangly arms. Another's sticky skin had dry, flaky patches peeling off, reminding Lucy of the time she got sunburn on holiday. The chubbiest one had matted, waxy hair poking out over its oversized ears and a belly like a small, round cannonball. The last one to emerge from the dark had a layer of spikes on its back like uncut fingernails poking out in every direction. There you go. Ugh. They don't look very nice, do they? This was their leader. Lucy could tell by the way the rest creaked out of his way as he crept along the wooden floorboards and into her room. The sight of them made Lucy gag. They were the most hideous things she'd ever seen. But their disgustingness was only just beginning. "Ooh, look at this!" the flabby round one said, holding up a rotten slice of pizza with fluffy green mould oozing from the crust. Norman had salvaged it from the rubbish truck earlier on, thinking it would be great creaker bait. He was right, thought Lucy, pulling a face as the creaker gave it a greedy sniff. "Puts it down, Guff. We's here for one thing this night," hissed the leader. Guff, what an awful name, Lucy thought. Guff let out an awful gassy bottom burp from inside his little fat bum, and Lucy realised how he got his name. "But Grunt looks at all the treasures. The room be covered nice and rotten," said Guff, looking at the trail laid out across the floor. Grunt? That's an even worse name than Guff, thought Lucy. But Grunt, the one with the prickly nails on his back and a rotten scowl on his face, seemed to suit his name too. Guff's right. We gotta take this stinker and stuff, Grunt. It be too good to waste, blurted the one with horrid boils, interrupting the one with flaky skin. "Don't speaks when I'm speaking, Sniff, you rotten twizzle." "Sorry, Scratch. Sorry, I forgets every time," Sniff said with a nervous chuckle. "Scratch, Sniff, be quiet," huffed Grunt. Grunt, Guff, Scratch and Sniff. Lucy repeated their names to herself in her head. They were repulsive names for repulsive creatures. "Fine. If you wants to rubbish, we'd better be creaking swift and quicky," Grunt said. And with those words, the 4 creakers began doing the grossest, most peculiar thing. They stretched out their sticky, wet arms and legs and began rolling around the room. As they rolled over the oozing pizza slices, the empty cereal boxes, the old sandwich crusts, the single dirty shoe, the leftovers from dinner, and every disgusting piece of rubbish, Lucy saw it all start sticking to their slimy skin. When they finally stopped rolling and stood up, the floor was clean, and the creakers were covered from sticky head to flaky toe. It was the strangest thing Lucy had ever witnessed. 4 odd little creatures coated in litter and rubbish. Grunt, Guff, Scratch and Sniff looked at each other and saw how completely covered they were in the mess. Then, one by one, they started laughing. Now, creakers don't laugh like you and I do. They come from a backwards world where right is wrong, where good is bad, and where laughter sounds more like the wailing of a newborn baby. They howled for nearly 5 minutes, revelling in the splendid rottenness of their find. And just as Lucy started to wonder if their laughter might wake up Ella and Norman, Sniff reached his oily black claw into a pouch tied around his neck and pulled out a pinch more of their golden dust. "Just to be safe," Sniff said, and he blew the Dozy Dust into the air, where it floated like crumbly magic into the corners of Ellen and Norman's sleepy eyes once again. "No chances of 'em stopping us this time," Sniff added, before snorting like a pig. Lucy's heart raced. The creakers didn't know she was hiding in the wardrobe, but if they did, they would surely use their magic sleeping dust on her too. Then she had an idea. In fact, the idea was dangling right over her head. Her swimming costume was on a hanger, and looped round the top of it were her swimming goggles. She quickly reached up and stretched them over her head, protecting her eyes from any stray crumbs of Dozy Dust. "Now let's get a rotten jacket and be taking it back to the Warlib," hissed Grunt, creaking towards Ella. The other 3 creakers followed behind him, moving as a shadowy pack into the centre of the room, a dark glob of sliminess creeping up on Ella, who was slumped in a slumberous heap. They stretched out their claws, reaching for the grubby jacket, heading right towards the spot on the floor marked with a C, right where Lucy wanted them. Chapter 12. Grunt, Guff, Scratch and Sniff. Lucy looked up at the heavy washing basket dangling from the ceiling, then back down at the 4 creakers. "One more step," Lucy thought, "and I've got you!" She released a creaker trap. The skipping rope unravelled around the hangers and swished out of the wardrobe so fast she could barely see it whiz across the room. In a great crash and clatter, the washing basket came crashing down from above, trapping the creakers under it and sending the rubbish they'd collected flying off in all directions. "No!" growled Grunt. "Ouch!" burbled Guff. "Get off me!" shrieked Scratch. "We be trapped!" squealed Sniff. The creakers cried out in panic, and Lucy leapt out of the wardrobe, heart ringing like an alarm clock in her chest. "It's the kidderling!" Grunt croaked. "She were sneaking in the wardrobe." "What a trickster," said Guff. "Yes, a naughty little rotter," Sniff cried, interrupting Scratch, who bashed him on the head. "Sorry." Okay, I'm trapped in the washing basket. Grunt quickly took charge, plunging his black claw into the pouch around Sniff's neck and pulling out a pinch of their golden dust. He puffed it straight at Lucy, and all the creakers watched eagerly as it swished through the air, straight towards her face, as though the dust itself had a mind of its own and was reaching out with golden, crumbly fingers. But instead of finding her eyes, the Dozy Dust hit the tinted lenses of her swimming goggles and fell uselessly to the floor. Sniff gasped in horror and fainted in shock. No child had ever fended off a Dozy Dust attack before. "You crafty little sprog," Grunt spat. "Did you seize that? The kid who got freaky dust stoppers!" Guff mumbled in panic. Scratch kicked Sniff in the belly. "Sniff! Sniff, it's me, Scratch! Wake up!" Sniff said, coming round. "She be a crafty little kidderling, this un," Grunt growled, glaring at Lucy. Suddenly he began clawing at the floor through the woven bars of the upside-down basket, which was barely big enough to hold all 4 of them. The other creakers copied him, digging their claws into the wooden floor and scratching away. Slowly, the whole washing basket began to move across the floor towards the bed. It wasn't heavy enough to stop them, and when Norman knocked out with Dozy Dust, there was no one to weigh it down. Lucy gulped hard, swallowing her fear, and sprinted across the room. She jumped up on top of the washing basket, pushing it back down again, trapping the creakers underneath. "Let us out! Let us out!" croaked the creakers. "No, I will not let you out," Lucy said, with a nervous wobble in her voice as she crouched above these monsters. It was terrifying not being able to see what the creakers were up to under her feet, but she didn't dare get down in case they made a run for it. As she peeped over the edge, the creakers were hidden in the shadow. Just their long, creepy claws could be seen as they scratched at the floor. Lucy wished she could turn on the light, but the switch on the other side of the bedroom. If only she had Norman's torch! She could see it lying on the bed next to him, but could she reach it? "What's the killing doing?" Guff muttered nervously from below. "Can't see the rotter," groaned Grunt. "She be stretching out for something," groaned Scratch. "She's got the bright!" Okay, so hopefully I can get our special guests back. Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Bowler, you'll come say goodbye. They're just going to come back and say goodbye.
Bye guys, stay safe. Bye, wash your hands.
We'll see you all soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.